looking to connect a region of over 600 million bridges between our lands.
Good evening, Amalma Angeles, and you're watching ASEAN in Focus on tonight's headlines. The low-pressure area east of Luzon developed into a tropical depression today, and Pag-asa gave the tropical depression the local name Egay. Thailand's caretaker Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha called for calm after a popular progressive candidate's bid to succeed him was thwarted by military and pro-royalist lawmakers. Two Philippine-made cube satellites, Maya 5 and Maya 6, were successfully launched into space from the International Space Station. The deployment took place from the Kibo module of the ISS, which is managed by the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, or JAXA. And later, legendary Filipino boxer Manny Pacquiao has arrived in Bangkok, Thailand, ahead of his highly anticipated battle against Thai Muay Thai fighter Buakaw Banchamet. First in our news, the low-pressure area east of Luzon developed into a tropical depression today. The Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical and Astronomical Services Administration, or Pag-asa, gave the tropical depression the local name Egay.
Magandang tanghali po sa ating lahat. Kaninang alas 8 ng umaga, yung low-pressure area po na ating minomonitor sa may silangan ng Southern Luzon ay na-develop o nabuo na bilang isang bagyo at pinangalanan nga po natin itong bagyong si Egay. Huli natin namataan itong bagyong si Egay sa layong 900 km silangan ng Southern Luzon at may taglay po itong lakas ng hangin umaabot sa 55 km per hour malapit sa gitna at pagbugso na umaabot sa 70 km per hour. Ano po ba inaasahan natin sa bagyong si Egay patungkol sa lakas o sa dami ng mga pag-ulan na kanyang dala? So ngayon hanggang bukas, wala pa po itong dalang malawakang mga pag-ulan sa anumang bahagi po ng ating kapuluan. Magsisimula po ang mga rain showers o yung mga pag-ulan na dala po nitong bagyong si Egay by Sunday to Monday dito po sa bahagi ng Catanduanes at Northern Samar. Posible po umabot sa 50 hanggang 100 millimeters of rains yung kanilang maranasan by Sunday hanggang Monday ng umaga. Pagdating naman po sa southwest monsoon o yung habagat po natin na ma-enhance nitong bagyong si Egay, inaasahan po natin na by Sunday, makakaranas na po ng maulan na panahon ang bahagi ng Mimaropa at Visayas. Samantalang by Monday hanggang Tuesday naman, monsoon rains o yung tuloy-tuloy na mga bugso ng mga pag-ulan na po na dala ng habagat yung inaasahan natin sa western section ng Southern Luzon at Western Visayas. Kaya doble ingat na po sa ating mga kababayan dyan at pinaghahanda na po natin sila sa posibilidad ng maraming pag-ulan na dala po nitong bagyong si Egay, pati na rin ng habagat over the weekend or by Sunday hanggang early next week po yan. Doble ingat. Pagdating naman po sa intensity o sa lakas nitong bagyong si Egay, posible nga rin po itong lumakas into a tropical storm category within the next 12 hours at bukas, posible nasa severe tropical storm category na po ito. At pagdating po ng linggo, may kita po natin nasa typhoon category na itong bagyong si Egay. At kung may kita po natin, by Monday, posible po itong umabot sa super typhoon category. Kaya hindi po basta-basta or hindi po dapat natin ipasawalang bahala itong minomonitor po natin na bagyong si Egay dahil nga malawak po ito, nasa 550 kilometers po yung kanyang radius, malakas na bugso na hangin po yung kanyang dala dahil nga posible po itong umabot sa super typhoon category at meron din po itong dalang maraming buhos na mga pag-ulan. Bukod po sa mga pag-ulan na inaasahan natin na dala nitong bagyong si Egay, posible po itong mag-enhance ng southwest monsoon o yung habagat na kung saan magdadala rin po ng malakas na mga pag-ulan dito sa may western section ng Southern Luzon at Visayas. Early next week po yan, kaya magtabay din po tayo sa mga update na inilalabas na ating local or sa ating mga PRSD ng Pag-asa.
News on the evolving political landscape in Cambodia. Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Sen's recent symbolic gesture has sparked intrigue and discussions about a potential transfer of power within the ruling Cambodian People's Party. In a momentous display, Prime Minister Hun Sen passed the party flag to his eldest son, Han Manet, during a rally for the CPP. Now, this move comes as the country prepares for elections this weekend, with Hun Sen poised for another victory. While no fixed date for the transfer of power has been announced, Han Manet, 45 years old, has already assumed various campaign duties on behalf of his father this year. Despite this show of succession, Sunday's elections have faced widespread criticism as the lack of genuine opposition parties has led to the perception of a sham vote. Critics argue that Cambodian democracy remains in a troubled state, even decades after the UN brokered peace accords. Many questions surround Han Manet's readiness for leadership. Although he has been active in recent public engagements and ceremonies, political analyst U Virak highlights concerns about his political background.
The problem is he's been spoon-fed, mostly with a golden spoon. So he's been fed, he's been delivered. Everything seems to be that way, and the question in the minds of observers and the people whether has always been whether he earned what he got.
And indeed, observers are wary of the political inexperience of the children of other CPP leaders as well.
You put them in the ring, they got knocked out in the first round. So you have to really allow them to fight, to spar, to survive, right, and to get back up, to get.
Virak emphasizes that for Han Manet to succeed as a leader, he must carve his own path and develop his own style of leadership.
Together, but Manet will have to make to become his own man, his own person, his own leadership. I mean, his own leader as a leader. He has to put his own stamp, and that will come from understanding who he is in the new world.
Thailand's caretaker Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha called for calm after a popular progressive candidate's bid to succeed him was thwarted by military and pro-royalist lawmakers. Pita Limja Rowenrat's Move Forward Party won the most seats in May's election, but on Wednesday he was dramatically suspended from parliament, which then refused to grant him a second vote to become the Southeast Asian Kingdom's next premier. The MFP has ridden high on the support of young and urban Thais, frustrated by nearly a decade of army-backed rule. But Thailand's establishment vehemently opposes its agenda. The party has refused to compromise on its pledge to revise the kingdom's strict royal defamation law, which can allow convicted critics of the monarchy to be jailed for up to 15 years.
เพราะอะไรแล้วให้ไปเลือกตั้งทำไมมึงเลือกมาเลยดิใครคนใดคนหนึ่งโคตรเงาสักหลาดมึงแล้วมึงบอกเลยปิดประเทศไปเลยว่าประเทศนี้ไม่มีประชาธิปไตยแบบพม่าไปเลยแล้วทำไมไม่ทำแล้วทำไมมึงต้องให้ประชาชนเดือดร้อนไปเลือกตั้งเลยเสียเงินเสียทองเสียความรู้สึกแล้วบอกเป็นประชาธิปไตย
News from the Pentagon regarding the fate of an American soldier held captive by North Korea. According to the Pentagon, the U.S. Army has initiated an investigation into the situation. The soldier in question is Private Second Class Travis King, who was due to return to the U.S. to face disciplinary consequences after serving jail time in South Korea.
We have the Army has launched an investigation into this incident. It's going to be led by Army counterintelligence personnel, and they'll be conducting this in coordination with U.S. Forces Korea. So we, at this moment right now, I can't tell you more about his whereabouts. That's something that the investigation would reveal.
While the investigation is underway, officials have made it clear that their utmost priority is securing the safe release of Private Travis King.
Our biggest concern about Private King is that we want to bring him home. And we are doing whatever we can through the interagency from DOD and other partners to find a way that we could bring him home. Again, as you heard me say, we have not heard any contact. We have not received any communication back from the North Koreans, but that is something that remains our focus.
King's actions took everyone by surprise as he eluded authorities at the airport, joined a tour of the border, and made his way across the heavily guarded Korean demilitarized zone.
He had served in a correctional facility in South Korea. He was being returned to his duty station at home. So there was, I don't think anyone anticipated that he was going to leave the airport. He did have escorts take him all the way up through security. And what we know is that he confirmed that he was near or somewhere close by the gate, but I don't think there was any anticipation that he was going to not board his flight.
The circumstances surrounding Private King's departure remain unclear, and officials are cautious about using terms like defection until the investigation reveals more information.
Voluntarily defected to the North Korea, but how do you know whether he wanted to stay in North Korea or he doesn't want to come to the United States? I mean, his home.
Well, again, Janie, I'm cautious to use that word. That's something that the investigation will yield. What I can tell you is that the soldier's current duty status is absent without leave. That's all I can say right now. It's hard. I can't say what he was thinking at the time.
Despite these communication challenges, the case of Private King remains an extremely high priority for the U.S. Department of State.
There is no regular contact. I'll say communications between our two countries are limited. We have made clear on a number of occasions that we have wanted to have discussions with them about their nuclear program and their violation of UN Security Council resolutions. We have made outreach to them on a number of occasions, but the responses have been limited. Is that the case continues to be an extremely high priority for the department? Our diplomatic efforts are ongoing. The White House, the State Department, the Pentagon, of course, are all continuing to work together on this matter to ascertain information about the well-being and whereabouts of Private King. We have relayed messages to the DPRK that Private King crossed on his own, and we want him returned safely. We have also asked for more info on his well-being. I will say that we retain a number of channels through which we can send messages to the DPRK, as I said yesterday. Certainly, I think we would always have concern, given the treatment by North Koreans of past detained individuals. We would have that concern, and that's why, one of the reasons why we are reaching out to ask for more information about his well-being.
U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen visited Vietnam this week to promote supply chain resilience and economic cooperation. During her visit, she met with Vietnamese officials, including Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh, to discuss critical issues such as the importance of a free and open Indo-Pacific. Yellen also visited an electric scooter and battery production plant, highlighting the growing economic ties between the U.S. and Vietnam.
We are actively trying to promote greater resilience in our supply chains, and that doesn't mean doing everything ourselves, and it doesn't mean, in our case, ending in any way, trading relations with China. But we do want to partner with more countries, and we see Vietnam as an excellent partner. And our trade and investment with Vietnam has been growing by leaps and bounds.
She commended Vietnam's efforts to enhance transparency and flexibility in their monetary policies.
We've been working with the State Bank now for almost 2 years to discuss currency practices, and we've seen that over these 2 years, monetary policy has progressed. The exchange rate regime has become more flexible and transparent.
She also pledged to continue working with the country to build a stronger and more resilient economy. Yellen's visit to Vietnam is a sign of the U.S.'s commitment to the Indo-Pacific region. It also reflects the growing importance of Vietnam as a global economic partner. Also this week, South Korea's top diplomat, Foreign Minister Park Jin, has said that his country is committed to deepening its ties with the Association of Southeast Asian Nations in a meeting with ASEAN foreign ministers in Jakarta on Thursday. Park said that Seoul plans to deepen and expand the partnership with ASEAN through KASI, or the Korea-ASEAN Solidarity Initiative.
A year ago, I emphasized that my government was committed to playing a more proactive role for a free, peaceful, and prosperous Indo-Pacific. I also made clear that ASEAN would continue to remain prominent in ROK's foreign policy. A year after, I'm pleased to see that we have made much headway. Most notably, the Korea-ASEAN Solidarity Initiative, or KASI, has been launched as our policy specifically tailored to ASEAN. The ROK announced its full text 3 months ago. As the name suggests, KASI focuses on solidarity, reciprocity, and equal partnership. I was told during a recent meeting with ASEAN ambassadors in Seoul that KASI has special meanings in this region. Love in Indonesia, giving in Malaysia, and commonality in the words of Kasih Manwa in the Philippines. Coincidentally, I must say that KASI encompasses all of these meanings. Here, let me briefly share with you the 4 key aspects of KASI. First, KASI is anchored in our firm and unwavering support for ASEAN centrality and the ASEAN outlook on the Indo-Pacific. Second, KASI places greater emphasis on strategic cooperation with ASEAN on political security areas. Third, KASI will expand cooperation in future areas, including, but not limited to, digital, smart infrastructure, and climate action. Fourth, KASI is an action-oriented, and the ROK will substantially increase its cooperation resources. ROK's contribution to the 3 ASEAN-related cooperation funds will be doubled to an annual sum of $48 million by 2027. As such, KASI will carry on and upgrade past achievements of all the previous ROK governments.
Staying at the same summit, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken reaffirmed the U.S.'s commitment to upholding freedom of navigation and overflight in the South China Sea during a press conference at a meeting of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations in Jakarta.
We're concerned by the PRC's increasing assertiveness in the South and East China Seas and in the Taiwan Strait. We remain committed to upholding freedom of navigation and overflight in the South China Sea, a critical throughway for global commerce and connectivity, and we support ASEAN's negotiation of a code of conduct consistent with international law. The United States also seeks to maintain peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait, which is in the interest of all nations. 50% of global commerce goes through that strait every single day. Some 70% of the semiconductors made for the world are made in Taiwan. We continue to oppose unilateral changes to the status quo by either side.
Blinken's remarks comes as China has held drills in the South and East China Seas around Taiwan and claims almost the entirety of the strategic waterway that overlaps with the territorial claims of other Southeast Asian nations like Indonesia and Vietnam.
As we work to extend the initiative, we also stand ready to support a just and lasting peace to the conflict based on the principles of sovereignty, territorial integrity, and independence. Principles that are at the heart of the United Nations Charter and ASEAN's Treaty of Amity and Cooperation, and that reflect the desire of people and nations in every part of the world to be able to choose their own path, free from the use of force, coercion, or aggression.
Meanwhile, Foreign Secretary Enrique Manalo of the Philippines has called for the strengthening of ASEAN-European Union relations in the years ahead. Speaking at the ASEAN Post-Ministerial Conference with the EU, Manalo said that the ASEAN-EU partnership, which was established in 1977, has led to many forms of collaboration in politics, economics, society, and culture.
Today, we cooperate on many issues of mutual interest and urgency, such as fighting climate change, combating transnational crime, strengthening food security, and the search for alternative energy sources, maritime cooperation, such as maritime peace and securing maritime borders, by adhering to the rule of law, especially UNCLOS, among others. We are optimistic that the plan of action to implement the ASEAN-EU strategic partnership will advance in the coming years. We welcome the EU strategy for cooperation in the Indo-Pacific and EU support and recognition. We welcome Team Europe's investment package for ASEAN worth €10 billion until 2027 and EU's planned contribution of €50 million to the ASEAN Catalytic Green Finance Facility. We also thank EU for the 16-month no-cost extension of the financing agreement of the ASEAN Regional Integration Support from the EU until January 2025. And we anticipate the implementation of the ASEAN-EU Comprehensive Air Transport Agreement, the world's first block-to-block air transport agreement.
It was also a great pleasure to see many of you at the European Union ASEAN Commemorative Summit in Brussels last December, where we commemorated 45 years of European Union ASEAN relations. That meeting cemented my impression of a growing political momentum in our strategic partnership, with a sense of this being mutually beneficial. Mutually beneficial, working on the values of multilateralism and rule of law that bind us together. We are the most advanced regional integration organization in the world, the European Union and ASEAN. And that's why we understand each other at a deeper level. And we both know how challenging it is to turn the vision of a regional community at the political level.
Australia has pledged 775 million Australian dollars in development assistance to Southeast Asia, including Timor-Leste, as it seeks to bolster ties with the region. The announcement was made by Australian Foreign Minister Penny Wong during a ministerial level meeting with her ASEAN counterparts.
Deepening Australia's engagement with Southeast Asia is a priority for our government because ASEAN's security is Australia's security and ASEAN's success is our success. We will continue to strongly support ASEAN's vital role in the peace and stability of our region. ASEAN's contribution through preventative diplomacy is essential to our shared goals. We all want a region that safeguards our capacity to disagree, preserves states' agency and protects our ability to decide our own destiny free from pressure. As comprehensive strategic partners, Australia and ASEAN have an ambitious program of cooperation to build a region resilient to many complex challenges, including climate change, health security and transnational crime. Our signature Australia for ASEAN initiatives supports your priorities, including practical implementation of the ASEAN Outlook on the Indo-Pacific, with its aim to promote an enabling environment for peace, stability and prosperity in the region. The government has invested in an additional $470 million over the 4 years in development assistance for Southeast Asia, and in this year will contribute $775 million to Southeast Asia and to Timor-Leste.
India and Indonesia took a momentous step, strengthening their partnership with the launch of a new trade channel. The India-Indonesia Economic and Financial Dialogue aims to address global challenges and significantly boost cooperation between the two nations. Focusing on bilateral investment, financial services, and infrastructure development, this dialogue sets the stage for closer economic ties.
Indonesia has emerged as India's largest trading partner in the ASEAN region. Our trade has increased eightfold since 2005, and it has touched $38 billion in the last year. In this background, therefore, we view this dialogue as an enabler for further deepening our partnership. We will be discussing issues on common interest that are mutually beneficial in enhancing our relationship with Indonesia. The areas of cooperation will include bilateral investment, financial services, and infrastructure development, among others. This dialogue, which we are announcing today, can play an instrumental role in reaching a common understanding on issues and taking forward the global agenda from the perspective of the emerging market developing economies. I believe that this dialogue will facilitate better cooperation between India and Southeast Asia, while contributing to the global economic and financial stability.
These two influential nations have a strong presence in international forums such as the G20, World Trade Organization, and the East Asia Summit. Their joint participation in these platforms has enabled them to voice their concerns and contribute to shaping global policies. And we have breaking news from Ukraine's Black Sea coast as Russian missile attacks devastate grain supplies and inflict damage on vital storage infrastructure. Agriculture Minister Mykola Solskya reports that a staggering 60,000 tons of grains have been destroyed, and a significant portion of export infrastructure is now out of operation.
Сегодня ночью вооруженные силы Российской Федерации нанесли групповой удар высокоточным оружием морского и воздушного базирования по объектам военной промышленности, топливной инфраструктуры и складам боеприпасов Вооруженных сил Украины в районе города Одесса.
The situation escalated further as Russia pulled out of a deal that previously ensured safe passage for exports across the Black Sea. President Putin of Russia later accused the West of using the grain deal as political blackmail.
Вместо того, чтобы помогать действительно нуждающимся странам, Запад использовал зерновую сделку для политического шантажа, а кроме того, как я уже сказал, сделал ее инструментом обогащения транснациональных корпораций, спекулянтов на глобальном зерновом рынке. Первое – это вывод из-под санкций поставок российского зерна и удобрений на мировые рынки. Второе – должны быть убраны все препятствия для российских банков, финансовых институтов, которые обслуживают поставки продовольствия и удобрений. В том числе речь идет об их незамедлительном подключении к международной банковской системе расчетов SWIFT. Нам нужны не какие-то обещания на этот счет и какие-то идеи. Нам нужно выполнение этих условий. Должны быть возобновлены поставки в Россию запчастей, комплектующих для сельхозтехники и отрасли производства удобрений. Далее. Должны быть решены все вопросы с фрахтом судов и страхованием российских экспортных поставок продовольствия. Обеспечена вся логистика продовольственных поставок. Далее. Должны быть обеспечены беспрепятственные условия для расширения поставок российских удобрений, сырья для их производства.
And in a significant escalation, Russia's defense ministry announced that from midnight on Wednesday night, any ships heading to Ukrainian ports would be perceived as potential carriers of military cargo, leading to temporary dangers for shipping in certain areas of the Black Sea. Now, the missile strikes targeted key ports in Ukraine, causing severe damage to grain terminals and port infrastructure in Odessa and Chornomorsk, two of the ports included in the now abandoned export deal. During these attacks, at least 12 civilians were wounded, including a 9-year-old boy. Military officials also reported damage to residential buildings. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky condemned the attacks, emphasizing that each missile strike wasn't only an assault on Ukraine, but also on the pursuit of a normal and safe life for people around the world.
The result of Russia's action today, weaponizing food, using it as a tool, as a weapon in its war against Ukraine, will be to make food harder to come by in places that desperately need it and have prices rise. We're already seeing the market react to this as prices are going up.
Russia had labeled its initial attack on Odessa as a mass revenge strike in response to an earlier attack on the Russian-built bridge over the Kerch Strait, which links occupied Crimea to Russia. Reports suggest seaborne drones were responsible for the bridge strike, which caused fatalities and significant damage. Now, the situation remains highly volatile, and the international community is closely monitoring the developments in this escalating conflict. In tonight's other news, Rohingya refugees who have sought safety in Cox's Bazar in Bangladesh are facing an alarming hunger crisis as their food rations have been reduced for the second time in 3 months.
Our colleague said the refugee agency said today that Rohingya refugees in Cox's Bazar are facing hunger after the latest ration cuts. This is the second cut to their food rations in 3 months. Faced with funding shortfalls that we talk about almost every day here, the World Food Programme has had to make difficult choices to sustain food assistance until the end of the year. In March, the value of food vouchers for camp residents was reduced from $12 per person per month to $10, and in June to $8. That's 27 cents per day. The cuts came just weeks after thousands of refugees lost their temporary homes because of Cyclone Mocha and a major fire, as you'll recall, in Cox's Bazar earlier in the year. UNHCR said that more and more humanitarian agencies are being forced to continue only with the most critical interventions. That means basic needs are being unmet.
Meanwhile, 2 Philippine-made cube satellites, the Maya 5 and the Maya 6, were successfully launched into space from the International Space Station. The deployment took place from the Kibo module of the ISS, which is managed by the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, or JAXA. Just 1.5 hours after the launch, the first signals from the Maya 5 and Maya 6 CubeSats were detected by the amateur satellite radio station at the University of the Philippines, Diliman. As the next step, the condition and status of these CubeSats will be closely monitored in preparation for the execution of their missions. These missions will serve as technology demonstrations and educational platforms. Science and Technology Secretary Renato Solidum expressed that the country's investments in education and advocacy for space technology has yielded significant progress in the development of the Philippine space industry.
Okay, I would like to offer my congratulations on the successful deployment of BIRDS 4S. I understand the University of the Philippines Diliman House made the onboard computer that was installed in Maya 6 as a new initiative and designed, manufactured, tested, and performed on-orbit technical demonstrations. Hope the success of your mission and your university's CubeSat development will move forward to the next step. Eventually, all components of the CubeSat will be developed by the university and launched into orbit. So again, my sincere congratulations.
First 4S, Maya 5 and 6, team from the Philippines. We are the JSAT satellite deployment mission from Kibo. We completed the successful deployment of Maya 5 and 6. We are pleased to announce that we are going to send you the certificate of deployment. We wish you the best of luck with the success of your mission. Congratulations.
Finally, in our news, legendary Filipino boxer Manny Pacquiao has arrived in Bangkok, Thailand, ahead of his highly anticipated battle against Thai Muay Thai fighter Buakaw Banchamek. Pacquiao touched down in his private jet at around 3 p.m. He was greeted by fans and media at Dong Mueang International Airport. He even took the time to wave and perform the traditional Thai greeting, the Y. The press conference, which will be held at Icon Siam in Bangkok, will unveil crucial details about the fight, including the venue, starting time, rules, and broadcast channels. Both fighters, Pacquiao and Buakaw, will be present to share insights and anticipation for this pulse racing sporting spectacle. The event, known as the Match of the Legends, or the Match 3, is being organized by the Fresh Air Festival's chief executive, Vintage Letra Tanachai. Letra Tanachai is no stranger to organizing high-profile sporting events, having successfully hosted a historic clash between English Premier League football clubs Manchester United and Liverpool in Bangkok last year. Pacquiao, with an impressive record of 62 wins, including 39 knockouts, 8 losses and 2 draws, has been a boxing sensation since 1995. Meanwhile, Buakaw has earned his reputation, triumphing in international boxing tournaments like the 2004 and 2006 K1 World Max competitions. The fight between Pacquiao and Buakaw is scheduled for January next year in Bangkok, and it's sure to be a thrilling contest between two of the most accomplished strikers in the world. Something to watch out for. As my usual habit, I'd like to end the week on a positive note. Let's encourage and build each other up so that no one is left behind. And that's it for tonight's broadcast. I'm Alma Angela. Stay in the news because we live in extraordinary times. Good night.